President Chuck, and it's so nice to be here with everyone. I have the distinct honor to introduce our speakers, Stephanie Freeman and her associate Kelly Ranallo, a pair of truly outstanding women of our city. Stephanie is president and co-owner of Coleman Industrial Construction Company, a railroad contracting business which builds just about anything in rail yards all over the middle and western half of the United States. Stephanie is a graduate of Indiana University and a gifted portrait and landscape artist. She is the wife of Paul Freeman and mother of 5 beautiful children, 3 boys and 2 girls. Let me point out, the girls are beautiful and the boys are just above average. She also volunteers at their schools and many organizations throughout the city. One of her main focuses is with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. Named one of Kansas City's top 10 small businesses by Kansas City Chamber of Commerce in 2013, Coleman Construction Company has won numerous safety awards both from the Builders Association and the National Railroad Construction Maintenance Association. Kelly Ranallo is a successful business executive with RareKC Project, all of which you will hear about shortly. It is truly difficult not to be tremendously proud to be Stephanie's father-in-law. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a great Rotary welcome to Stephanie and Kelly.
I've never sounded so impressive. Thank you so much, Chuck, and to the speaker committee here at Rotary number 13, and to my favorite Rotarian, Jean Freeman, my father-in-law, who has, I know, been a very committed member of Rotary for a number of years. And I just want to say that the things that you all do for the community is truly mind-boggling. I've had the pleasure of being out to the youth camp on several occasions, and was thrilled to be a part of Camp Enterprise a few years ago, and just loved interacting with the kids out there. So I've seen everybody in action once or twice, and so just kudos to you all for all that you do for the community. I imagine another great thing about being a Rotarian is the relationships that you build and the connections that you make, and maybe even a few bona fide friendships over the years. I'm sitting with Carl Roscoe and talking about the times that he and Jean have been bowling buddies, and so I think that's just fantastic. And I also am so humbled to be on this stage that I know has hosted lots of speakers from lots of different walks of life with different strengths and different interests, and it's, I'm sure, often very inspiring. And I know that every time something like that happens, when you make a connection like that, or you hear a speaker that brings you in on a corner of life that you were not previously aware, that, you know, it expands your circle, it expands your horizon, you know, whether you call it your circle of influence, or your circle of trust, or your circle of friends. You know, it's whatever you call it, it grows. And I'm a person that loves learning new things, so I just love that idea. And when my husband Paul and I had our 3rd son, Henry, our lives were going very much that way. Paul was at a point in his career where he was making new connections at breakneck pace and expanding his circle and his career very, very quickly. I had chosen to stay home with our children and was very busy with our 3 little boys at the time, sinking new roots back down in Kansas City after 5 years in North Carolina. Everything was great, life was good. Our circle was growing and expanding, except that our little baby Henry was sick. It was a bad cold, it was bronchitis, it was RSV, it was pneumonia, it was bronchiolitis, it was a host of things. At times, our little baby Henry, even at the age of a couple of months old, sounded like a freight train just breathing. So, and as I was reflecting on it, number 47 stays in my mind. By the time Henry was 5.5 months old, we had seen a doctor or been in a hospital or seen some sort of medical professional 47 times. And if you do the math, it doesn't seem possible. Even to this day, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around how we even managed to do that. But with each of those events, our circle shrank. Our circle continued to get smaller and not bigger. Because with every time that we reached out to a medical professional to find out what was wrong with Henry, with it going undiagnosed, we felt more and more isolated, more and more alone, and with less and less knowledge of how to kick this. And finally, when the doctor walked into the pediatric intensive care unit at Children's Mercy Hospital, where our 6-month-old baby Henry was on a respirator breathing for him, and the doctor told us that his test for cystic fibrosis had come back positive, we might as well have been standing alone in that room. Our circle was now Paul, me, and little Henry. We were starting over. And to put it another way, we knew our circle wasn't gone, but we knew we were starting a new one. Since that day, we have expanded that circle exponentially by learning every single thing we could about Henry's disease, about how to treat the symptoms so that he could live as full and healthy and happy a life as possible, and by learning what it was going to take to cure it. We promised him that when we were a circle of 3. Fast forward to 2015, when a friend of a friend told me about another mom who had a daughter with a disease called Turner syndrome. Completely different disease from cystic fibrosis. In fact, it only affects girls. After 30 minutes with Kelly, I realized what she already knew, that we had a lot more in common than it might seem. A rare disease is classified in the United States as any disease with a patient population of less than 200,000. Cystic fibrosis has about 30,000 children and young adults in the United States. Some diseases are so small and so rare that they're only referred to by numbers and letters, like some distant star in the universe. And make no mistake, it wasn't easy living through Henry's diagnosis. But we had one, finally. What I didn't know was how many people struggle for years, sometimes their whole lives, without even the benefit of having a diagnosis. It was devastating learning all that our little boy was going to have to do every day just to stay healthy. But he had things he could do. Only about 5% of rare diseases have an FDA-approved treatment at their disposal. We had a treatment protocol. We had a team of doctors at Children's Mercy Hospital that were ready to track and treat every symptom that he had. And it was scary thinking, what if the scientists that are working on this to develop new drugs, new therapies, a cure, what if they take too long? Cystic fibrosis has a life expectancy. We had research and tons of it. And we've got still to this day, a full pipeline of research going on. And our Henry has benefited, he's almost 16 now, he'll be 16 this summer. He's benefited from that research and those new therapies and those new drugs every day since he was diagnosed. Kelly Ranallo, who I'm going to turn the microphone over to in just a few minutes, is a really exceptional woman. I've realized since getting to know Kelly and being part of the RareKC Project that my family, if I can figure out how to switch the slide, this is our family. We have 5 kids, as Jean mentioned. Our family is so fortunate because we've got something called the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation that was started back in the 50s by a few parents who were concerned and who wanted to put these measures into place to enable people who were concerned about it to get that diagnosis, to get the treatments in place, and to funnel that pipeline with money for research. Kelly, in addition to basically basically putting something like this into place by herself with a team of people at Children's Mercy Hospital that she gathered. She has put these pieces into place for her daughter Allie and for the other girls that are living with Turner Syndrome, and she started the Turner Syndrome Global Alliance. And I have such an amazing amount of respect for her because she's done what the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation did for us. She's done it for her daughter, and she's done it for all the girls that are living with Turner Syndrome. But you know, the amazing thing, more amazing thing, is that her vision goes beyond that. We have incredible resources here in Kansas City that Kelly's going to touch on. And Kelly's vision, in a nutshell, is to join forces with the resources that exist in Kansas City that are focused on rare disease, with the circles like I mentioned, with my circle. So we're going to join these circles together, and we're going to give hope to those families that don't have a circle. So without further ado, I want to hand the microphone over to Kelly Ranallo, my esteemed associate, and she's going to tell you about the RareKC Project.
Again, as Stephanie said earlier, I don't know where to go from there, right? I mean, what a wonderful opportunity, and thank you, Jean, and the rest of all the Rotarians here for inviting us here to share our story today. Stephanie's right? We all have our story. Oh, by the way, that's a picture of Henry. We do all have a story. That's what all got us here. None of us wanted to be on this team. I think Stephanie and I would agree. You know, there's great things that have come out of it. But if we would have chose this, would any of us chose this for our children or our loved ones? No. But we got here. And so now we do have a team. And Stephanie pointed out, it's the strength in that voice. As Stephanie pointed out, there's a lot of statistics, and we actually gave you a handout on your table, because as Chuck reminded me, I have a very short period of time to talk, of which, Chuck, you're going to have to remind me, because as you can imagine, when we get passionate about it as moms, you have a tendency to want to talk a lot. So the statistics are exactly what Stephanie already explained to you. There's 30 million Americans that have one of 7,000 classified rare diseases. That's 1 in 10 people. So if you get those statistics here in Kansas City, what does that mean here in Kansas City? That means 250,000 people who live in the Kansas City area are impacted, affected by a rare disease or a rare genetic condition. And more importantly, why I know that's important to all of you sitting in this room, is over 50% of those are children. So 125,000 children here in Kansas City, and as Stephanie pointed out, only 5% of them have any kind of drug or treatment that's FDA approved at this point in time. So how do we make that happen? How do we increase those numbers? How do we give hope to those families that for many of these children, they are waiting out the time? You know, my daughter, her life expectancy isn't significantly impacted by her genetic condition. Don't get me wrong, she has plenty of other challenges. But we have families every day, and as we pull more and more families together, we have families that live minute by minute hoping that somebody's going to invest in research. And many of you are business people in the room. You can imagine when you have small numbers, which a lot of our rare diseases are. We have 2 families here in Kansas City that I know of that their children are 1 in 5 in the world. There aren't a lot of pharmaceutical companies wanting to invest lots of research dollars to make that happen. So how can we do that? How can we change? How can we come together? And as Stephanie pointed out, where can we bring our strength and why Kansas City? So you will see that the information and the statistics that are on the board are from an organization called Global Genes. This is an organization that's based out of California. I started watching them about 5 years ago. I'm all about not reinventing the world and making connections and using strong resources with people that have already made amazing things happen. So I reached out, literally sent an email to Nicole Boyce, said, Nicole, I know you don't know me, but I'm a mom here in Kansas City. And Kansas City rocks, and I think you should come here to Kansas City because I think we are the next big thing that comes to rare disease. So I sent an email, my husband goes, really? And I said, what's the worst thing she's gonna say? No, or not respond to me? Within 2 hours, she responded back to me and said, I don't know who you are, but I do know a little bit about Kansas City, and I think you're right. When can I come? And so she came and she started a partnership to give Kansas City a national outlook and a national level. What is our vision here in Kansas City? Well, for Stephanie and I, and all of those of you that may be personally impacted by rare disease, is to bring faster cures and treatments to our kids. To make that connection, make that circle that Stephanie referred to stronger and bigger so that we have a stronger voice. But our major vision here in Kansas City, with the partnership of some amazing resources that we have, is to establish a first nationally recognized Center of Excellence for Rare Disease. Europe is way ahead of us in this, but in the United States there is not one that's established. Something similar to what has happened here in Kansas City with the Cancer Center. We want to create that for families with rare disease. We want to bring a national spotlight here to Kansas City because not only do we think it will do good things for our families, but it'll be amazing for our business community. It'll allow us to bring more attraction and national funding from the NIH to facilitate those research initiatives. We want to stimulate economic growth that comes with it. Again, many of you that are sitting in this room, from a business perspective, the biotech industry is a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry. Why shouldn't that happen here in Kansas City? You know, if you look at the long history of why we have the Kauffman Foundation and all the great work that the Kauffman Foundation has done, it goes back to Marion Labs and the work that was done in the life science division. We want that here. We don't want to be the flyover state. When you talk about biotech, most people talk about Boston and maybe a little bit on the West Coast. That should happen here in Kansas City. We have all the right resources. We have the passion. We have the philanthropic community to make that happen. We want to inspire innovation and collaboration. And most importantly, we want to keep our kids here. We don't want to have to be flying across the United States to access those clinical trials and to take part in finding specialists that understand our kids' disease states. Again, why Kansas City? We're leaders in medical innovation. We've got the Stowers Institute that does basic biological research. We've got KU, we've got Children's Mercy. We have a collaborative spirit that goes beyond just our life science organizations here in Kansas City. We have strong presence of really strong rare disease advocates. Stephanie and myself, there's a lot of national organizations that support rare disease. The PKD Foundation, that are right here in our backyard. We have a long-standing history of philanthropic community. We have probably one of the most giving communities in the United States here in Kansas City. And my question is, why not Kansas City? Why should we be the flyover state? We want to be the fly-to state, not the flyover state. And I think for me, when I really ask about it, if I have to be part of the team, which again, none of us wanted to be part of that team, this is the team I want to be part of, right? We know what can happen here in Kansas City when you're the underdog, which so many of our kids are, but when you pull together the resources and the energy and the passion in Kansas City, we can make amazing things happen. The national spotlight is on us. We have the NIH that flew in for a town hall event in February. We started a town hall event meeting. It was really quick. And thank you, Chuck. Okay, here we go. Here's my story. These are my two girls. Katie was born with undiagnosed rare disease, and we lost her at 5 months old while we were waiting to come back from a routine doctor's visit in Minnesota. Because we were having to travel outside of Kansas City away from family, and we didn't know because she was undiagnosed at that time. Technology would have given us the knowledge. And the one on the right is my Allie girl. She's the one that Stephanie talked to that has Turner syndrome. And here's Allie today. She just graduated high school. She does have a lot of challenges, but she's headed off, and she just started her summer internship at the Stowers Institute to do genetic research. She wants to give back as well. The last comment I have about Allie and Henry, one of the challenges of rare disease is if you look at our children, you wouldn't know if something was wrong with them. So many times, rare diseases, rare genetic conditions, it's not obvious to the general population, and so that becomes even more challenging sometimes for families. So thank you again for letting us be here, and I'm going to leave it up to Chuck.
Do we have any questions? David's got a microphone. Still a good job. Over here, David. Carl Bolton over here in the corner. We'll start with Carl.
I think you can hear me anyway. Thank you for your program today, Gene and ladies. What's the reluctance, and why is there only a 5% interest by the FDA and other medical associations to make an impression against these diseases?
So that's a really good question, and I think it goes back to anybody that is in for-profit business and sitting in the room. The language that I've learned over the time is we are not low-hanging fruit. And so it's expensive to bring new drugs to the market. And the success rate of bringing drugs to the market, and part of it's investing in the research, part of it's getting it through the FDA process, of which there's advocacy going on at a national level to bring faster cures. There's an organization called the Milken Institute that has a whole program to try to facilitate these things. But the biggest challenge is the way drugs are developed in the United States is through for-profit biotech companies, and you have to have a pretty good guarantee that you're going to get return on your $1 million or possibly $1 billion investment to do a drug. And when you're talking about our small numbers, it makes it more challenging.
Christian. We need to turn it on.
What you were just talking about, I understand that just recently a lot of drugs like Lipitor have gone up because they're supposedly getting to the point where they can do more research. That's why they've raised these drugs that are proven. Why can't they give a percentage of that to what you are trying to do?
I would agree with you. I mean, I think that this is always an ongoing challenge, and there's been some national legislation. If any of you are familiar with the Orphan Drug Act that went into place, that actually was championed by a mom whose son had Tourette's, and she ended up having to...
What's going on? Why is this such a big secret? We need to know. And then that's going to help you on your program, but they have to get listened.
Yeah, and I can't answer that, obviously, and I would, it would be great to be able to invite them at some point in time to explain to that. They do amazing work there. The basic biological, they're probably second in the world with the technology, but I agree with you, they're quiet, right? They do good work and they're quiet over there. So we're hoping that, again, through collaboration, that the understanding and how that collaboration can help us bring faster cures by understanding the basic biology and research, because that's what they're geared towards, that we're hoping to be able to continue to open those communications.
Kelly, I want to thank you and Stephanie again for being here. Let's give them a large round of applause for their wonderful job. We are so happy to have you with us today. Don't step away. We're going to give you, we have a certificate for you and for Stephanie. We'll wait for her to come forward. As you know, we are the largest Rotary, one of the largest Rotary clubs in the nation, and definitely the best Rotary club in the world. We are so happy to have you with us today. And this certificate says that you talked to the Rotary Club of Kansas City and gave your presentation. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate all the hard work you're doing and are here to support you in any way we can. Let's give them another big round of applause. Thank you so much.